I give the floor to the United Nations Watch.
Thank you, Madam President. UN Watch supports the struggle against racism. Our founder, Morris Abram, was an early advocate in the civil rights struggle who marched arm in arm with Martin Luther King. Another pioneer of this cause was Martin Ennals, the former Secretary General of Amnesty International, whose legacy is memorialized each year with the Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defenders. Considered the world's top human rights prize, this year's ceremony will take place here in Geneva on October 8th. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, will be presenting the award to this year's laureate. Madam President, unfortunately, there is a serious problem. One of the nominees, Mona Seif of Egypt, has a record of discrimination against individuals on the basis of their nationality, in violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Egyptian human rights activist Michael Nabil, a former Amnesty International prisoner of conscience,
The distinguished delegation of Egypt has asked for a point of order. You have the floor.
President, Madam Vice President, this particular NGO has been not following the rules of procedure that we have all agreed upon here, and I think, Madam Vice President, that you should be this NGO should be following the rules of procedure. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize the delegation of the States of America for a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We hope that the United States firmly believes that accredited NGOs must be permitted to speak in the Council. Though member states, including the U.S., may occasionally disagree with the content of NGO statements, it is essential that civil society voices be heard here in an atmosphere of open expression. Without addressing the substance of the Speaker's statement, we are of the opinion that what we have heard of the intervention so far is indeed addressed to the subject matter at hand before this Council on item 9. We therefore, Madam Vice President, respectfully ask you to rule that the Speaker be allowed to finish her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize the delegation of Cuba on a point of order.
Gracias.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. My delegation would like to add its voice to the request made by the delegation of Egypt. Once more, this organization, this international organization, is ignoring the procedures which are the hallmark of this Human Rights Council. Once again, this is totally outside the topic being discussed. This isn't a point to refer to concrete country situations unless the country situation has an influence on the bearing on the international agenda against racism. Therefore, my delegation would like to add its voice to Egypt's voice on this point of order, and we request very kindly and respectfully that we are given a chance you abide by what Egypt requested with regards to the NGO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I recognize the delegation of China who would like to speak on a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Chinese delegation supports the statements made by Egypt and Cuba in their point of order. We hope that you make a fair judgment and ask the NGO to abide by the rules of procedure of the HRC. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. I recognize the distinguished delegation of the United Kingdom on a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. In a similar vein to the comments made by the delegation of the United States, without prejudice to the content of the statement being read out by the Speaker in question, we do think that the statement is relevant to the agenda item in question, and we also ask that the Speaker be allowed to finish its statement. Thank you.
I recognize the distinguished delegation of Pakistan on a point of order.
We support point of order raised by Egypt, and we request to ensure that NGOs' participation should be in accordance with the rules of procedure. Thank you.
I thank you. I now give the floor to UN Watch to finish the statement asking you to take into account the comments that were made by the distinguished delegations.
Thank you, Madam President. In discrimination, Egyptian human rights activist Michael Nabil, a former Amnesty International prisoner of conscience, and Amr Bakli, head of the Cairo Liberal Forum, were the first to express concerns over Mona Seif's nomination. Mr. Bakli said, quote, "The Martin Ennals Award is not for terrorist supporters. Mona Seif is a terrorist supporter. Indeed, the facts show that Mona Seif has openly promoted acts of terrorism. On July 6, 2011,
On a point of order, I give the floor to distinguished delegation from Egypt.
Madam Vice President. Madam Vice President, what this NGO is addressing clearly does not fall within the agenda item we are discussing today. Thank you.
I thank you. The floor to UN Watch to finish the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. On November 6, 2012, Mona Seif endorsed Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians. When Amnesty International demanded that the Al-Qassam Brigade cease their rocket attacks, Seif vehemently objected. She defended the attacks as, quote, resistance. In July 2011, she supported blowing up the Sinai pipeline that exports Egyptian gas to Israel and to Jordan. She praised those who commit such violent acts of terrorism as heroes. Madam President, the High Commissioner has stated that Hamas rocket attacks against Israeli civilians constitute a grave violation of international human rights law. Yet this clear and vital message could be undermined if her patronage of this award grants UN legitimization to a person who promotes terrorism and discrimination. We call on the High Commissioner to urgently investigate this matter. Thank you, Madam President.